Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening up the hood of the SAP Sales and Distribution module, specifically the SD module. And we're going to look at something that I think, honestly, a vast majority of consultants and even power users just take for granted. We're talking about the incompletion log.
It is an absolute classic topic, and you are right. It is totally taken for granted. It's usually an afterthought in a lot of implementation projects.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, especially if you're just starting out in SAP or, maybe you're a user who just wants to get an order in the system, the incompletion log is just that annoying thing that makes fields turn red.
Right, the obstacle course.
Exactly. It's the obstacle course.
Yeah.
It's the thing that stops you from hitting save because you forgot to put in a PO number or a shipping condition.
Yeah.
But looking at the research we have today, specifically this master guide for senior consultants that we've been pulling apart, it seems like we've been looking at it all wrong.
Completely wrong. I mean, if you view the incompletion log simply as a tool to make a field mandatory, like just a way to force a user to type something, you are really staying in what I call the junior consultant mindset.
The surface level.
Exactly. It's surface level. It's reactive. It's about checking a box. But if you want to move to a solution architect mindset, which is really our goal for this deep dive, you have to completely reframe the concept.
Well, the source material calls it a process gatekeeper. I love that title. It sounds almost knightly, like it's standing guard at a castle.
It's the perfect description. It is the internal validation engine of the entire order-to-cash cycle. Its job isn't just to be annoying or to slap the user on the wrist. Its job is to answer a really critical business question, which is, at what point is the data quality insufficient to proceed to the next step?
That is a huge distinction. It's not just fill in this box. It's, does this order have enough integrity to become a delivery? Or a bill.
Exactly. It's about preserving data integrity downstream. Because if you get it wrong here, right at the start in the sales order, you aren't just missing a field. You're creating a ticking time bomb.
Right.
You are going to have failures at the loading dock, failures in the billing run, account determination errors in finance, and just generally frustrated users across the entire supply chain. You're trying to prevent a fire, not just checking for a smoke detector.
So our mission today is to take you, the listener, from that junior mindset of making fields red over to designing system governance. We're going to look at the database architecture, including some pretty massive changes in S/4HANA that you absolutely need to know about.
Oh yeah, those are big.
Yeah, and we'll walk through the configuration steps, which the source calls the big three, or the triad, and then we're going to get into the really cool expert-level scenarios, things like pricing checks, dummy fields, and the actual dangers of cutover strategies.
We are going to cover it all, and we're going to get quite technical, so buckle up. This is where the real value is found, and it's all in the details.
Let's start right at the foundation then. Let's unpack the anatomy of this gatekeeper. We mentioned that SAP doesn't just check fields randomly. It uses a very specific status management system. So can you break that down for us?
Sure. To really understand the incompletion log, you have to understand the concept of status. When you are working in a sales order, or a delivery for that matter, the system is constantly tracking the health of that document. It's like a medical chart. In the classic SAP architecture, the ECC world that so many of us grew up in, we have three key players, three tables that run the show.
Okay, introduce the cast. I know these names haunt the dreams of some ABA developers.
They certainly do. First, you have VBUK. VBUK.
That's the header status, correct?
Correct. VBUK tells you the overall health of the order. Is the whole thing complete? Is it rejected? Is it fully delivered? It's the summary line. If VBUK says the order is open, it's open. If it says it's complete, it's done. It's your high-level dashboard.
Okay, so that's the big picture.
Then you have VBUP. That's the item status. That tracks the health of each specific line item, your widgets, your services. Because you can have an order where line 10 is perfect, fully delivered, invoiced, but line 20 is missing a shipping point and is just stuck.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so VBUK aggregates the view, but VBUP gets granular.
So VBUK aggregates, VBUP gets granular. It's basically the difference between saying the patient is sick versus the patient has a broken left toe.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. And then there's the third one, which is really the star of our show today, VBUV.
VBUV, and this is the actual incompletion log table itself.
This is the repository. It records exactly which fields are missing. So VBUK might say, hey, this order is incomplete, but it doesn't tell you why. It just gives you the red light. VBUV is the one whispering it's because the payment terms are missing on the header or the gross weight is missing on item 10.
Got it. So sticking to the medical analogy, VBUK is the diagnosis, you're sick, and VBUV is the symptom list. You have a fever, a cough, and a runny nose.
That's a perfect analogy. VBUV holds the specifics. It's a variable list. One order might have absolutely nothing in VBUV. Another order might have 50 entries because the user didn't type anything.
Now, here is where it gets really interesting for anyone moving to S/4HANA or anyone who is already there and wondering why their old queries aren't working anymore.
Oh, right. The simplification items. This is huge.
The source material highlights this as a major architectural shift.
It is a massive shift. In the older SAP ECC systems, VBUK and VBP were separate physical tables. They stood completely alone. Every time you read an order, the system had to go fetch data from VBAK, the order header, and VBAP, the order item, and then do a join to VBUK and VBUP just to find out the status.
And joins are expensive performance-wise, especially when you're running a report on, say, 1 million orders.
Exactly. In high-volume systems, those joins really add up. It slows down the VA's 05 list of open orders. So in S/4HANA, to boost performance, SAP just eliminated VBUK and VBUP as standalone tables for sales orders. They moved those status fields directly into the main document tables.
So the header status is now sitting right there in VBAK.
Exactly. Header status is now a field in VBAK. Delivery header status moved to LIKP. Billing header status to VBRK. And the item statuses move to VBA, LibPS, and VBRP. It's a flat structure now. It is so much faster because you don't have those extra joins. You read the order header, you get the status for free.
But wait, if I have custom code, let's say a report I wrote 10 years ago that selects from VBK, does it just break? Do I get a syntax error?
Well, SAP is clever. They didn't want to break 20 years of custom code. So they created CDS views, core data services views that have the exact same names, VBUK and VBUP. So your old code might actually still run because it's reading a view that looks like the old table, but underneath it's just redirecting to the new locations in VBAK and LIKP.
Okay, that's a relief.
And this is important, for a solution architect, you need to know where the data actually lives now. You really shouldn't be writing new code against those views if you can help it. You should go straight to the source.
That's a crucial tip. But what about VBUV? Did that disappear too? Did they just shove the error messages into the header table?
No, and this is the key detail that catches people out all the time. VBUV remains the central table for incompletion records. It did not get moved into the header or item tables.
Why is that? If they moved all the others to simplify things, why keep VBUV as its own separate island?
Think about the nature of the data. Status is fixed. Every order has a status. Even if that status is nothing is wrong, it's a one-to-one relationship. But incompletion data is highly variable. A perfect order has 0 records in VBUV. A messy order might have 20 records. You can't easily flatten that variable length list into a fixed header table without making an absolute mess of the database normalization. So VBUV stays as a separate, distinct table.
That makes perfect sense. So architecture check status fields have moved home to the document tables, but the specific error log, VBUV, is still on its own.
You got it.
Okay, so the architecture has shifted slightly, but logic remains the same. Let's talk about that logic flow. I'm a user, I'm typing in an order, I hit save. What is actually happening in the background? Walk us through the millisecond by millisecond loop.
It's a very rigorous loop. As soon as you hit save, the system triggers the validation logic. First, it checks the incompletion procedure that's assigned to that document. Think of the procedure as a checklist. It scans the specific fields listed in that procedure.
Okay, so it looks at the list. It says, do I have a PO number? Do I have a requested delivery date? Do I have a shipping condition?
Right. It runs straight down that list. And if a field is empty or has an initial value in SAP terms, meaning 0 or blanking, it flags it. But it doesn't just flag it. It looks at the status group assigned to that specific field in the configuration. This is the really crucial link. Based on that status group, it updates the VBUV table to say, hey, this is missing, and then it updates the status fields we just talked about to incomplete.
And then comes the kicker.
Yeah.
The consequence.
The consequence. This is where the rubber meets the road. If that status group is configured to block, the next document in the chain is dead in the water. You cannot create a delivery. You cannot create an invoice. The gate is firmly closed. The system says, I will hold this order, but I will not let it proceed.
That brings us perfectly to the configuration triad. The source material breaks this down into 3 steps, and the first one is exactly what you just mentioned, defining the status groups. This is transaction OVA0.
OVA0. Yes, this is the most critical, but honestly also the most misunderstood step in the whole process. I see consultants mess this up all the time. They rush right through it.
Why is it misunderstood, though? It seems pretty straightforward. You pick a group, you assign it.
Because people think it's just about turning the incompletion light on. They think, I want this field to be mandatory. But the status group dictates the consequence. When you go into OVA, you aren't just saying, check this. You're presented with a menu of checkboxes. You have general, delivery, billing document, goods movement, picking and packing, production.
So you're basically choosing your punishment.
You are choosing the business impact. You're designing the flow. Let's look at a real-world scenario to make this concrete. Let's say a client comes to you and says, we need the customer PO number on the sales order.
A classic requirement. Almost every project has this. The customer just won't pay if their PO number isn't on the invoice.
It is super standard. Now, scenario A, the client says, we want to stop the sales rep from saving the order if the PO number is missing. They want a hard stop.
Okay, so I set the status group to wait. The source material says this is actually a trick question.
It is absolutely a trick question,
Right.
and this is exactly where the junior consultant gets tripped up. The incompletion log is a soft validation. It generally allows you to save the document, even if it's incomplete. It just marks it as incomplete. If you want to physically prevent the save action, if you want the system to scream error and refuse to store the data, you typically need a user exit or a different type of field check. The incompletion log is designed to block subsequent processes, not the current one.
Right, okay. That is a really fundamental distinction. Soft validation versus hard validation. Hard validation means you cannot pass go. Soft validation means you can stay here, but you can't leave.
Exactly. So let's go to scenario B. The client says, okay, the sales rep can save the order so they don't lose their work. Maybe they are on the phone and need to call the customer back to get the number, but we absolutely cannot ship this product until we have the PO number.
This sounds way more like how businesses actually run.
It is. Now we are in the incompletion log's sweet spot. This is exactly what it is built for. You would create a status group or use a standard one where the delivery checkbox is ticked.
And what happens then?
The sales rep hits save. The system says, document saved, incomplete. The order exists, it has a valid document number, but the status is incomplete for delivery. If the warehouse manager tries to create a delivery note, like in VL01N, referencing that order, the system stops them. It says, order is incomplete, the gate is closed.
And scenario C. Ship it, get it out the door, we need the revenue recognized. But finance says we can't invoice the customer without the PO number on the bill because they'll just refuse to pay it.
Then you check the billing box in the status group. The delivery goes out fine, the goods leave the building, the truck drives away. But when the billing clerk runs the billing due list or the background job runs at night, it will simply skip that order. It won't create the invoice until the data is fixed.
It really is a menu of consequences. It
Mhm.
gives you so much control over the flow.
It really does. And you also have goods movement. That's vital for things like storage location. If you don't have a storage location, you physically can't post the goods issue. So you'd use the goods movement block there to stop the PGI step, even if the delivery note itself was already created.
So step 1 is defining the consequence in OVA 0. Step 2 is defining the incompletion procedures in OVA 2. This is the list.
This is the container. You are grouping specific fields together. And SAP separates these by document level. You have Group A for header, Group B for items, Group D for partners, and so on. You build your checklist right here.
There is a really specific warning in the source material here about the screen field. Call it a trap.
Oh, the F-code trap. Yes. This is a technical nuance that causes major headaches. When you add a field to the procedure, let's say that PO number field we talked about, you have to assign a screen. This determines where the system takes the user when they click that complete data button in the log.
Right, that little button that's supposed to be a shortcut to fix the error. The user sees the error, clicks the button, and the system whisks them away to the exact tab where the field lives.
Exactly. Ideally, it takes them right to the customer data tab. The risk is if you assign a screen that doesn't exist for that specific document type, or if you just copy a procedure from a standard order and apply it to a specialized order type that has a totally different screen layout.
That happens.
The user clicks complete data, and bam, short dump. The famous AB runtime error, screen not found.
Ouch. So the system just crashes.
It crashes, it kicks them entirely out of the transaction. It is a terrible user experience. It looks like the system is broken. And usually it's because the consultant set it up, tested that the log appeared, but didn't actually test the navigation button. They just assumed it worked.
So the expert tip here is really simple. Always test the complete data navigation.
Always. Don't just assume the screen number is correct because you saw it in another procedure. Verify it for your specific document type. Click the button yourself before you hand it over to the client.
That is a pro tip. Okay, step 3 in the triad is assignments. We have our
Right.
status groups, we have our procedures. Now we have to link them to the actual documents.
Context is everything here. You have header level assignments, which is transaction v.43. This links the procedure to the sales document type.
So linking to OR for standard order or QT for quote.
Right. And the source points out that a rush order needs different data than a credit memo. A credit memo doesn't need a shipping condition usually because you weren't shipping anything, you're just giving money back. A rush order absolutely does need it. So you need different procedures for different business processes. One size definitely does not fit all.
Then we have item level V.44. This links to the item category.
This is where the magic happens. This is where you differentiate between what you are actually selling. Think about a company that sells both physical widgets and consulting services.
Okay.
The widget is a standard item category tan. It needs a gross weight and net weight, otherwise the truck driver has no idea how much he's hauling. It needs a shipping point.
Right.
But the consulting service is item category tad. It has no weight. You can't weigh a consultation. It doesn't need a shipping point. It's totally intangible.
So if you use the same procedure for both?
You'd never be able to sell the service. The system would demand a weight for the consulting hours. It would block the order entirely. So you assign a procedure with weight checks to tan and a procedure without weight checks to tad. You manage this differentiation at the item category level, not the header level.
That makes perfect sense. It's granular control. And the last assignment mentioned is partner functions, V.46. Ideally, I'd think this is linked to the document too, but the source says no.
It's a nuance. This is assigned to the partner function itself. For example, the sold to party or the shipped to party.
So if my sold to is missing a VAT number,
The system triggers a procedure assigned to the sold to function. It ensures that your customer master data as it applies to this specific order is complete. It checked the integrity of the players involved in the transaction. It essentially prevents you from selling to a ghost.
so that's the basics, the configuration triad, status groups, procedures, assignments. If you master those, you're doing better than most. But we promise to go deeper. We promise the solution architect view. Let's talk about the advanced scenarios.
Let's do it. These are the problems that usually force people to write really bad custom code, mostly because they don't know how to leverage the standard effectively.
Pricing checks. This seems to be a huge pain point. The source says the standard incompletion log checks fields and tables, not specific condition records. So if I want to make sure the PR00 base price is there, I can't just add PR000 to the log.
No, you can't. And this frustrates everyone. PR00 is data inside a condition table, inside the pricing engine. It is not a static field on the sales order table, VBAK or VBAP. The incompletion log is strictly designed to look for table field. It's totally blind to the deeper pricing logic. It only sees the surface.
So what's the workaround? I see consultants asking this on forums constantly.
The common hack, and it is a hack, but a very useful one, is to check the field VBAP net WR. That is the net value of the item.
Okay, so if the net value is 0.
Then trigger the log. It effectively says, hey, this item is free. That's probably a mistake.
But it doesn't tell you why it's 0.
Exactly. It's a blend instrument. It doesn't tell you if you're missing the base price PR00 or if someone accidentally put in a 100% discount or if the currency conversion failed. It just says 0. It points at the problem, but it doesn't diagnose it.
So if you need to be specific, if you need to check specifically for PR00 because maybe you do allow 100% discounts, but you still require a base price to be entered, what's the real solution?
You have to step outside the incompletion log. You use pricing procedure requirements, VOFM routines. There are formulas like formula 008 that you can attach to the pricing procedure itself. That is where you enforce that a specific condition must be present.
So the lesson here is, don't try to force the incompletion log to do something it wasn't designed for.
Correct. Use the right tool for the job. If it's a pricing logic issue, solve it in the pricing procedure. If it's a data presence issue, solve it in the incompletion log. Don't mix your metaphors.
Another advanced topic is active versus passive. You mentioned earlier that the log allows you to save. It's usually silent, but sometimes you want to be loud. You want to pop up.
Sometimes you need to shake the user a bit. By default, the log is passive. You save, the status updates in the background, a little message at the bottom says document saved incomplete, and that's it. Many users just ignore that message. They are in a hurry.
They just see document saved and move on. Not my problem anymore.
Exactly. If you want to force a dialog box, a pop-up window that lists the missing fields right in their face before they can finish, you have to do two things.
Okay, step 1.
In the incompletion procedure, which is OVA2, there is a checkbox specifically called warning. You have to flag that for the specific field you care about.
And step 2.
You have to go to the Sales Document Type Configuration Transaction VOV8. There is a flag there called Dialog Message for Incompletion. If you check that, the system will force that pop-up window to appear when the user tries to save, if any warning fields are missing.
It forces them to look at their mistakes.
It does. It says, "Are you sure? Here is what is missing." They can still bypass it usually, but it forces that acknowledgement. It's aggressive, but for really critical data, it's often necessary to break the user's autopilot mode.
Here's a scenario that I think is really clever. The dummy field technique. The source describes a situation where a client wants logic, like field A is mandatory, but T only if field B is X.
Conditional logic. This is the holy grail for many requirements.
Right, because the standard log is basically binary. Is the field empty? Yes or no? It doesn't care about other fields. It can't say require route only if shipping condition is 0 or 1.
Correct. The standard configuration cannot do cross-field validation. It checks fields in complete isolation.
So how do we hack it?
We build a Trojan horse. We create a dummy field.
Walk us through that.
First, you add a custom, let's call it ZID status flag to the sales order table, so VBAK or VBOP. It's a hidden field. The user never sees it on the screen. It lives only in the background. Then you use a user exit, specifically use exits of document prepare. This is a standard place to put custom ABAC code. In that code, you write your complex logic. If shipping condition is 0, 1, AD route is empty.
Then what?
If the logic determines there is an error, you clear the ZZS status flag. You make it empty. You essentially set it to incomplete.
And if the logic passes?
You fill it with an X or any value, really.
I see where this is going.
Then you add ZZ status flag to your incompletion log. So the incompletion log thinks it's checking this random flag. It asks, is the flag full? If your custom logic cleared it, the log says incomplete and triggers the block.
That is brilliant. It's like using a proxy.
It is. It bridges the gap between simple configuration and complex business rules. It allows you to use the really robust blocking functionality of the incompletion log, stopping deliveries, billing, etc., but controlled by your own custom complex logic. It gives you the best of both worlds.
One last advanced scenario regarding configuration, the sales versus delivery conflict. The source warns about making batch number mandatory on the sales order. Why is that a bad idea?
Because of the timeline. You have to understand the physical reality of the supply chain. When you are taking a sales order, you often don't know which specific batch of product you are going to ship.
Right. The customer just orders product A. They don't care if it comes from batch 100 or batch 101.
And functionally, the product is in the warehouse. Maybe it hasn't even been produced yet, if it's a made-to-order scenario. If you make batch mandatory on the sales order,
you block the process before it even starts.
Exactly. You can't save the order because you don't have a batch. But you can't get a batch until you pick the goods. It's a catch-22. You've paralyzed the sales team because the warehouse data isn't ready.
So what's the best practice?
Make batch mandatory in the delivery incompletion log. That's group G or H. Let the order go through. Let the warehouse create the delivery. But stop the post-goods issue if the batch is missing.
It sounds so obvious when you say it, but I bet that trips people up all the time.
It creates completely unnecessary bottlenecks. You have to align your system checks with the moment the information actually becomes available in the real world. Don't ask for data before it exists.
Moving on to Section 4, troubleshooting. The why is this happening section. We've all been there. You think you configured it right, but the system is just acting weird.
Troubleshooting is where you really learn SAP. It's detective work.
The first issue is database versus screen values. The log says a field is missing, but I'm looking at the screen, and the data is right there. It's filled in. I can see it with my own eyes.
This is a classic ghost data problem.
Yeah.
It usually happens when you have user exits involved. You have to remember, the incompletion log reads the database structure or the global memory structure that is about to be committed.
Yep.
If you have a user exit that is populating a field on the screen, painting the value for the user to see, but it hasn't properly moved that value into the internal SAP table like XVBAK, at the precise moment the incompletion check runs.
The log sees a blank.
It sees error. Even though your eyes see data, it's a timing mismatch. You need to ensure your user exit logic populates the internal structures before the standard SAP incompletion check fires. Usually this means moving your code to an earlier exit, like user exit move field tovback.
That is tricky. Here's another one, the time machine problem. I decide today that payment terms are mandatory. I change the config. I go to run a report of incomplete orders. Transaction V.02 and nothing. The old orders that are missing payment terms aren't showing up.
This is the most common support ticket after a config change. My report is broken. It's not broken. Configuration changes are not retroactive.
So the system doesn't automatically go back and check old orders.
No. Think about the performance impact if it did. Every time you touched config, the system would have to scan millions of historical orders. No. Those old orders have a status recorded in VBUK and VBUP, or the new S4 tables. That status was calculated yesterday, based on yesterday's rules. Changing the rule today doesn't magically update the status record in the database.
So how do we fix it?
You have to force a recalculation. There is a standard report called SDVUK00. It stands for Redetermine Status. You run this for the open documents.
And what does it do?
It basically opens them up, applies the new rules, recalculates the status, and saves it. It refreshes the diagnosis.
That's like sending the inspector back to the construction site.
Exactly. And until you run that, your reporting in v.02 will be totally out of sync with your new configuration. You'll be flying blind.
What about when the incompletion log button is grayed out? I've had users panic because they can't click it. They say, my button is broken.
That is the sound of success. If the button is grayed out, it means the document is perfect. There are no messages to display. There's nothing to fix.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Ideally, you want that button grayed out all the time. Tell your users, gray is good. It means you did your job.
One final troubleshooting tip from the source. Item category confusion. The log isn't triggering on an item, but you swore you assigned the procedure to the item category. You check the config 3 times.
This goes back to our service versus standard discussion earlier. You might have configured the procedure for item category TAN. You are completely sure of it. But you need to check what item category did the system actually derive for this specific material in this specific order.
Right. Maybe the material master has a different item category group set up.
Exactly. Maybe it derived TAN, which is free of charge, or TAS third party, or some ZXXX custom category. If you didn't assign the procedure to that specific category, the log won't fire. Always check the field VBA key PSTYV in the order to see what category you are actually dealing with.
Check the actuals, not just what you think should be there.
Always verify the data. Never assume the config worked until you see the result.
We're coming into the home stretch here. Let's talk about integration and migration. Because the incompletion log doesn't just live in a silo. It impacts finance and materials management.
It is a handshake between modules. It's the contract.
Let's look at finance first.
Yeah.
FI. Why does the CFO care about my SD incompletion log?
Because of the billing block in the status group. If you have an order with missing account assignment groups, which drive the general ledger accounts, or missing payment terms,
You let that flow through.
if you let that flow through to billing, you generate an invoice. But that invoice will fail to post to accounting. It gets stuck. It sits in the VFX3 error list.
And that means the billing due list, VFA4, gets completely clogged up with errors.
It gets incredibly messy. You have invoices in limbo. Revenue isn't recognized. Month-end close becomes an absolute nightmare. By using the billing block in the incompletion log, you ensure that only clean, postable data reaches finance. It keeps the books clean. It prevents the garbage from leaving the SD module in the first place.
And for materials management.
It's about the goods movement block. We touched on this.
Right.
Think about the storage location. If a delivery is missing the storage location, you physically cannot pick the goods. You can't deduct them from inventory because the system doesn't know where to deduct them from.
Right.
If you allow a post-goods issue, a PGI, without that data, you get stock inconsistencies. The goods movement block ensures that MM and SD remain in sync. It enforces the physical reality of inventory management.
Now, the danger zone, cutover strategy.
This is where careers are made or broken. This is the stuff they definitely don't teach you in the academy.
You are transporting a new incompletion procedure to a live production system. Let's say you are making root mandatory. What is the risk?
The risk is the time machine problem we discussed, but weaponized.
Repetized. That sounds ominous.
If you move the transport, the new rules are live immediately, but the old orders don't know it yet. So you might think, I'll run that SDVB UK0 report to clean everything up and update the statuses.
That sounds responsible. You want the data to be accurate.
It is responsible technically, but functionally. You might have just taken 500 open orders that were ready to ship orders that were entered yesterday when root wasn't mandatory, and suddenly slammed the delivery block on all of them because they're missing the root.
Oh, wow. So Monday morning, the warehouse tries to ship, and the system says no 500 times.
And the phones start ringing. Why can't I ship? This order was fine on Friday. You have effectively stopped the business because you applied a new rule to old data without a transition plan.
So what is the strategy? How do you avoid the chaos?
Communication and analysis. Before you run that update utility, you identify the open orders. You analyze the impact. You have a change management plan. You tell the users, starting Monday, you will need to enter the route. We have flagged your old orders. Please go in and fix them. Or you make a decision to not update the old orders and only enforce the rule for new ones moving forward.
You don't just flip the switch in the dark.
Never. That is how you stop a supply chain. You have to treat the incompletion log as a live, breathing part of the business process, not just a configuration table.
This has been an incredible dive.
Yeah.
I feel like we've completely dismantled the idea that this is just about required fields.
It's about governance. It's about flow. It's about architecture.
Let's summarize the key takeaways. We have the soft validation of the incompletion log. It allows saving but blocks downstream actions, versus the hard validation of user exits, which prevents saving entirely.
Correct. Use soft validation for missing data. Use hard validation for illogical data, like a delivery date in the past.
We have the T-codes, OVA0 for status groups, OVA2 for procedures, and don't forget V.02 for the report and SDVBUK00 for the status update.
Memorize those. They are your toolkit.
And finally, the evolution. A junior consultant sees red fields. A solution architect sees the governance layer of the SAP solution.
That is the shift we want our listeners to make. It's a mindset shift as much as a technical one.
So here's our final provocative thought for you to take away. We want you to challenge yourself.
Yes. Don't just listen to this. Go into your sandbox system. I want you to create a status group, make a custom one that blocks picking but allows delivery creation.
Ooh, subtle.
Assign it to the gross weight field. Then create an order with 0 weight. Create the delivery. The delivery should create fine. But then try to pick it. Try to create the transfer order.
And watch it fail.
Watch it fail. Observe the error logs in VL02N. That hands-on verification, seeing the block hit at exactly the specific moment you designed it to hit, is the only way you will truly master the flow of the status group. You have to feel the mechanism working.
Get your hands dirty in the sandbox.
Yeah.
That's the only way to learn. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the SAP Incompletion Log. We'll catch you on the next one.
Happy configuring.